This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5.
Also known as a chance for Brett Blakemore to participate. And fear not, we'll be counting on you for the next hour and a half.
Good to know.
Rather heavily. So glad to have you back. It's been guest heavy. We'll have Lavelle at the bottom of the hour. But what you got for us here for Top 5?
Let's start here. Who says that our club doesn't make signings? Who says that we're not active in free agency?
You're really starting here? This is where you're starting?
This is where we're starting.
Wow.
Your Green Bay Packers signed linebacker Christian Welch. We got him.
Ooh.
That changes everything. Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Apparently, he played for the Packers, so I'm told.
I recall he's an inside linebacker from Iowa. More of a special teams guy.
Yeah. So we got him. What a great signing for the green and gold.
We need to move on so that the Bradshaw and Brian text line doesn't completely blow up at this point. that led Top 5. Well, it's meant to be.
It has to.
It pretty much does. Hey, didn't mention the new legal counsel that the Packers just hired, too.
I might have got there as well.
They have a new team lawyer. We're excited about it.
Yeah, I didn't know what that position was until you tell me it's just
general
law.
counsel. The new general counsel. He deals with all the law stuff, all the legal concerns.
How would you grade the Packers offseason so far?
C+.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
And they added a couple need spots, offensive line, cornerback. But no one's going to wow you. But here's a great line you can remember. You don't win Super Bowls in March. Ask teams like the Washington Commanders, Chicago Bears, or even the Minnesota Vikings, who have done very well in March of late. Now, it almost translated last year. But now we'll just do our quiet, unexciting, vanilla March, although last year was more exciting. We got to get off the Packers at this point.
Says who?
That's the 6 o'clock hour. That's when
fair enough.
Pretty much out of everything. Let's just figure out.
Yeah. I just think Gutekunst says needs a sense of urgency, and then that's what we get. But don't worry. We sniffed around, people. We sniffed around.
We did, and C+ isn't terrible. You know, it's
C+ is bad.
Slightly better than average.
I don't know about that. All right. We'll move on. Fine. I'll relent.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
We do have to get this in because I will receive texts. The Wild beat the Caps 4-2 last night. I actually gave them their flowers. I thought it was a good win last night.
You did.
The offense looked relatively decent. They kept Ovechkin off the board. They were down 2-1 at one point, but ended up coming back and winning. Play again tomorrow against the Devils. The playoff cushion, it was a big win points-wise because the cushion is back up to 7 points over the Canucks. Only 2 points against the Blues, though, for the wild card 1 or 2 flip-flop, so that's concerning. The Wild do have a game in hand over the Blues, but the Canucks have a game in hand on the Wild, so making the playoffs should be relatively easy with that amount of points, with this amount of games left, with 9 games left. Should be in. But I would much rather, despite Vegas just stomping the Wild at the X the other night, I'd still rather play Vegas than Winnipeg, who have already clinched the playoffs and no one else in the Western Conference has.
Right, and Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek are still week to week. Yeah, week to week is not good as you're inching closer to the postseason. Day to day would be much more preferable. Do we think we're going to see either of them in the postseason?
Well, that's in the postseason. I think we'll see both of them.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're both skating. You would think, and not to go on a wild tangent, Bill Guerin bet on them coming back in the regular season. And he specifically, because what he could have done, theoretically, is shut them down, put them on long-term injury reserve, and then had freed that money up to then go make a move to try to get some goal-scoring help. And then once the playoffs start, which is what teams like Vegas and Tampa do every single year, is then magically they're healthy again, and now the salary cap essentially doesn't count in the playoffs. Right. So manipulation of that, they could have done that, and Bill Guerin said, we think they're going to be back for the regular season, so we're not doing that. We'll see. I know they're traveling with the team to their New York swing, but they're not going to play. They've already said they're not going to play. They're just going to travel, I guess, for morale. I don't know. But maybe that homestand after is where people are kind of thinking.
Always good to get a slice of pizza or a New York bagel. I mean,
there you go. Hey, yeah.
Can't hurt.
I'm down with that. The Wolves, here's something you can rip on. The Wolves finally back in action tonight. Feels like it's been forever against the Suns. Shannon Jr. questionable with right groin soreness. But that's it for your injury report. So other than that, the Wolves should be good, which you can hear right here on the Fan. Pregame 6:45, tip off at 7.
Yeah, we think Ant's okay. Last we saw him, his hand was all wrapped up in tape. He's got a thumb contusion, but haven't played since Monday. That's a rare, it's almost all-star break worthy. Having not played for 4 days, was not a good performance in Indiana. Thought they might, get a little chance of revenge after losing the game at Target Center to a depleted Pacers roster, but they were not really in that game. So they've had a lot of time to think about it. Reportedly, they've gone hard in practice this week. Maybe that's why Terrence Shannon injured his groin. Who knows? Let's hope they worked on end-of-game situational basketball, because that's the biggest concern for this team is closing seconds of a tight game. They always seem to throw the ball away, turn the ball over, not look like their best. Maybe they've had some time to work on that. You're right about Phoenix. They're coming off a blowout loss at home to Boston, but they had won, I believe, 5 of their previous 6. But they are one of the most disappointing teams in the NBA with all that star power. They're probably locked into the 10 seed in the West, so they're going to have to play their way in. But this is a team that the Wolves have pretty much dominated of late. Ant always gets up for playing against KD. And for many of us, it's multi-screen night. If you're a big hoopster, you got the Wolves, you got March Madness. Phone will be in play as well as TV. A lot of hoops to watch tonight.
Another thing you can watch with multiple screens, yesterday was MLB opening day. The Twins lost their matchup against the Cards in St. Louis 5-3. Pablo Lopez catches the L. Sonny Gray, we didn't need him, as we'd say on this program, catches the win against your Twins. Some people are saying the season are over. Not me, but some people are saying that.
It's already trending in a bad direction.
It's already done. The snowball's rolling.
It really is.
So, yeah.
Cardinals are a team you always want to beat because of the history. Having knocked them out of the World Series. I know that goes back to before you were born, right? Yeah, you weren't born in 91, correct?
Nope. It was -5.
Yeah, so that's not... Or was that 87? I forget now, but the Braves 91? The Braves were 91. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. As a Brewer fan, I always like to beat the Cardinals because the Cardinals knocked the Brewers out in the World Series. The only World Series the Brewers played in back in 82. Still bitter that Raleigh Fingers missed the World Series with an injury. He was the Cy Young Award winner that year. Your Twins, it would have been nice to beat Sonny. The rain delay probably messed things up. I think more concerned, it's just not a good night for Pablo, not a good day for Pablo. He got hit around pretty well. They're back in action tomorrow, I believe, for a pair of weekend games against the Cards. And I think pretty much everybody now can watch the Twins. I think they figured it out on cable, on satellite, wherever you get your sports. I think now you could find a way to watch the Twins, which is handy now that the season has started.
Let's go here, and then we'll wrap it up. Because you haven't... I like to, in the Top 5 talk about things we may not talk about sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is something that both of you and I are into. The Texas Children's Houston Open, or just golf in general. Some big names like Scottie Scheffler right now. Play just resumed not too long ago. There's a big rain delay. Scottie Scheffler is in the lead. 11 under is what I've got. So the cut line looks like it's going to be 2 under. So guys like Rory is hanging around at 1 under. Local kid Frankie Sappin hanging around at 1 under. He's only had 2 holes today. Have you been on the air since Rory won the Players?
I don't think so.
Have we talked about that?
I don't think so.
It was a huge win for him, in my opinion. As both Rory stands, the two of us, I thought I was locked in, especially 16, 17, 18, that playoff, electric, I thought.
It was anticlimactic on Monday morning because J.J. Spawn just vomited.
Yeah.
He bogeys the 16th, and he puts the ball in the water on 17, takes a 6, and it's over. Happy for Rory to get that win. Scheffler shot a tidy 62 today at the Houston Open. Not too shabby. I was a bit bitter that we were in a rain delay when the show started because you were kind enough to put it on the big screen. I'm like, hey, I can watch some golf while I do the show. They just finally resume play as we get closer and closer to the Masters, just a couple of weeks away as the guys are getting geared up for that. As Rory
is for Eagle.
Putting for Eagle on
that is
8.
A long putt.
That's a 100-foot putt right there. And he's not close, although very good weight.
That's a lag for
6-7 feet?
Yeah, for Bird.
From 100.
Yeah.
Scheffler, rather impressive today.
So there you have it. There's top 5. And
I got one more.
Oh, you do?
I got a bonus. South Dakota State head coach Eric Henderson just accepted or is expected to be hired by Drake University to be the new basketball coach. I know you're an Iowa guy.
Yes.
At Drake, and my brother went to Drake. So let's congratulate Eric Henderson as a future Big Ten coach, perhaps as soon as the season after next, because the last 3 Drake coaches are now coaching in the Big Ten. Nico Medved here, Darian DeVries at Indiana, Ben McCollum at Iowa. So it sounds like Eric Henderson is just one season away from, Penn State, Ohio State, Rutgers, name your Big Ten school. But he's been very successful with the Jackrabbits, been to the tournament a couple of times. It appears he is poised to be your next Drake Bulldogs head coach. That just came across Twitter in the last 20 minutes or so, so I thought we'd throw that as a bonus top 5 segment as well. Thank you for that. Bottom of the hour, Lavelle E. Neal III will join. I know you hate when I give my Vikings takes. I know it. It's not going to stop me. I have to weigh in on the quarterback situation and what we learned this week. I'm just perplexed. I'm confused. I don't really get it. We'll chat about that when we come back on The Fan.
Wolves.
On a Friday afternoon, it's the Bumper to Bumper with Barreiro program. Dan on vacation over the next week or so. Dave Sinekin sitting in today. Another hour and change. I'll take you down to 6:30, getting you set for Wolves basketball tonight. Wolves back in action, 7 o'clock at Target Center. Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant and company, Devin Booker, they are in town as the Wolves look to reverse what they looked like their last game in Indiana. Still very tightly bunched in the Western Conference, just a half game out of 6th, but currently residing in 8th, chasing the Clippers and Warriors. As Britt Robson mentioned, and when he joined us in the 3 o'clock hour, if you look ahead to the Wolves' schedule, it's very, very friendly on paper. We know that has not always been a reason to celebrate. Looks like they're going to catch a break in their next game Sunday when the Detroit Pistons are in town, likely without their superstar, Cade Cunningham, who is out tonight and is day-to-day. And it sounds like he's likely to miss a couple of games, which should serve the Wolves well. And frankly, we want Detroit to lose a few games. I mean, they are now 5th in the East. They've passed up the Bucks and are now 5th. The Wolves control that draft pick, as you may know, provided that it's not in the lottery. And it will not be in the lottery. That will be a pick coming to Minnesota. It's almost going to be too low now at this point. We wouldn't mind them dropping a few games. J.B. Bickerstaff doing a great job with that team, considering how historically bad they were last year. Remember they had that, how long was their losing streak? Was it 30 games? I mean, they were terrible. They are really good, but they will be missing Cade Cunningham. So the Wolves get a bit of a break, and tonight is a night where you must take care of business against a Suns team that has just been awful, and the Wolves have handled rather regularly since the playoffs last season. All right, want to talk a little Vikings football. I've been complimentary, if you've listened to In the Zone, about the free agency pickups. I don't know how you can't be. They needed to fortify both lines. They did that with players we've all heard of that have had really strong careers. The 2 Colts linemen should do wonders, provided they're healthy on the offensive line. And Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, again, might not be at their peak, but they're still really good players. Again, they need to stay healthy. You say that about every single player. They've had injury concerns a bit, but they are terrific ball players when healthy. And if they can stay healthy, that makes a big difference on the Vikings defensive line. And there have been a lot of ancillary moves as well. I mean, heck, even the former Packer, Eric Wilson, who they brought in, he was really effective for Green Bay last year, really known as a special teamer. I think today's pickup by Green Bay, Christian Welch, was probably replace Eric Wilson. But he was more than that. I mean, he played some good linebacker. I know he played for the Vikes first, went to Green Bay, now he's back. But that's a sneaky, nice little pickup of the couple cornerbacks they grabbed. So, again, complimentary. I think Kwesi, for the second straight year, has used the money that he had in front of him and has spent it very well. At least it appears that way. He got in front of the mics this week, State of the State. He still doesn't have a new deal, correct? That's still...
That was a big talker, yeah.
Yeah, that's surprising to me at this point. You redid KOC. The guy, granted, the drafts have been less than stellar, and maybe that's what's holding back the Wilfs. If anything is, maybe the drafts haven't been great, but the free agents obviously were a home run last year. And whether they got the quarterback right is going to be what probably determines whether he stays the general manager. That was the same thing in Green Bay. If Love is great, Goody stays. If he's not, he's probably done. So I don't know. I guess I'm from afar a bit surprised that they haven't decided to extend Kwesi at this point. Maybe that's going to happen sooner rather than later. But it was really interesting when he was asked about J.J. McCarthy, right? About, is he your number one quarterback? And I just find it curious that the Brain Trust is not ready yet to pronounce J.J. the number one quarterback. There's no competition currently. Doesn't mean there won't be. Is it about not wanting to let J.J. take it easy and know that he's earned the job? I mean, it's his to lose. They all want him to be the number one. Obviously, it's going to serve Kwesi's future well, KOC, who's locked in. What are they waiting for? Is it got to see how he looks in OTAs? Like, if he looks 100% in OTAs, maybe we're ready to pronounce he's number one. He's number one, right? So the only thing you can think in the back of your head, and nobody listening right now wants to hear this, is the door is not closed on Aaron Rodgers just yet. I remember speculating with Double T a few weeks ago. Pittsburgh seemed like the only playoff caliber team that might want him. And reportedly there is an offer sitting on the table, a 1-year deal for Rodgers if he wants it. He spent a good chunk of a week ago Friday with Pittsburgh talking to players, coaches, owners, front office people. He's doing what Aaron does. He's going to go think about it. But ultimately, is Pittsburgh a Super Bowl contender? It's hard to see them that way. They're a playoff caliber team, but for Rodgers at 41, soon to be 42, with maybe a year left, he's only playing to win a Super Bowl. And the only way he's going to do that is if he obviously joins a team that has that kind of a roster. The Vikings qualify. The Vikings, I'm sure, look good to him. Maybe he just waits and says, you know what, I may retire. But if a Super Bowl contender loses their quarterback, i.e. Matthew Stafford goes down, Joe Burrow goes down, I can step right in. That gives me a chance to win a Super Bowl. And the Vikings are among those teams. And that's why when Kwesi was asked about, do we call him number 12 now or number 8?
That could go either way. I think both numbers are available.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Neither one's been retired, correct?
Well, no, Mullins is gone. And Kirko
was 12, right? Was he 8?
No, he was 8.
He was 8. How quickly we forget.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Kirko might be available as well.
We don't follow the Vikings as closely as we should.
Or perhaps as closely as we should. No one wants to hear this again, but I do because I don't think I've heard it yet. Kwesi, when asked about that.
How did it end with Rodgers? Was it his choice, your choice, that it wasn't going to fit?
I think we got to a place where we just said everybody was transparent, but right now we feel good about where we're going, and that's really how it ended. It's ultimately up to him. It's hard to talk about a player who's not under contract for our team and who plays for obviously isn't a member of this team. It's ultimately up to him what he decides to do with his future. But that's kind of where we left it. I know Kevin and him have a great relationship still. They'll still have a relationship. They'll keep talking. But right now, I'm focused on the 2 players that are in our room right now and in my personnel process for going forward.
There was a phrase early in that where he said, ultimately, it's up to him. That stood out to me. Really? It's up to him? What? Does that mean that if Rodgers says, I want to be there, you're going to figure out a way to get him here? Or am I reading too much into it? Didn't know that KOC and Rodgers were buddies. That's interesting.
From what I've gathered from being on a lot of shows this week is that his thought about that is it's his decision if he wants to go sign with the Steelers and close the door completely.
Okay.
But it's our decision whether we're going to sign him. That's the way it's been told to me.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand where the Vikings are with McCarthy, what they're trying to get through to him by not just saying, hey, he's our guy. We drafted him at 11 last year. We believe in him. He's worked really hard to get that knee back in shape. He looks like he's 100%. He's our guy going forward. What is holding them back from saying that?
Well, and since I defended Kwesi there, I will rip him here because he said, I don't think anyone ever announces that they're a QB1 this time of year. I would like to differ because, like, if you look at our club, when Rodgers was gone, he's our guy. Or even Favre, going back to when they just made a decision, Rodgers is our guy. We're moving forward with him. He's our QB1. Best of luck in New York, basically, or wherever you end up going. Happens all the time with rookie quarterbacks.
The only time it doesn't happen is if there is a legit competition. Like, we've got JJ, who we believe in 100%, but he's going to have to prove it because Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl, or whoever they decide to bring in ultimately. We know they are going to bring in a veteran. I think if they wait, is it the end of April, like after the draft? If they wait till then, there's no compensation lost if you bring in a quarterback. So they might be waiting to not have to give up a draft pick down the road. Or they might be waiting on Rodgers, or they might be waiting just to make sure JJ looks exactly like they expect him to look. And maybe when OTAs happen, which I think are in May, maybe that's when they decide, you know what, we can announce it. He's our guy. He's number one. It's his job to lose. Because they could say that now. You don't have to. You can change your mind. If the knee isn't there, whatever might be holding you back, you could always change your mind. But I don't see the downside of just saying, look at our team right now. J.J. McCarthy's our quarterback. He's the guy we believe in. He's worked his butt off, and he's got the job. It's his job to lose.
The only downside is it would close the door on Aaron Rodgers. That's it.
Well, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Hey, Aaron, we're saying this. Just know that.
Oh, he'd take that well.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
Just interesting to me. It's going to be an interesting few months. I believe J.J. McCarthy is going to be the quarterback for this team, barring injury. But the fact that A-Rod is going to sit back and wait just makes it somewhat delicious that it might be a talker as the weeks and months go by. All right, we'll pause here. Lavelle, Neal the third on the Twins, on March Madness, on whatever else comes to mind. He is next. Bumper to Bumper on the Fan. All right, we're back 5:37 on a Friday afternoon. It's Bumper to Bumper, not with Barreiro, with Sinekin on this Friday afternoon. What was your favorite Jimmy Snuggerud moment? Not a surprise. The now former Gopher officially signed his 3-year entry deal with the St. Louis Blues. Expected not necessarily to be in uniform tomorrow, but will join the team next week. Again, just so quick. A heartbreaking, some would say stolen overtime loss up in Fargo to UMass. Ends the season, and a day later, he is officially an NHL player. What a great career at Sky UMA. And Gopher fans will somehow have to root for the Blues a little bit, or at least for him, as he now is an NHL player. I'm sure the Blues are thrilled to finally have him in their colors. All right, let's welcome a Friday regular to this program, kind enough to join me on this Friday afternoon. Lavelle Neal the third joins the program. Lavelle, how we doing?
Doesn't Snuggerud need to finish classes before he can start playing professional hockey?
Oh, I believe he can handle that remotely. Yeah, I think he's got that covered. I'm sure he'll handle those finals with aplomb. He will take care of business.
I'm kidding. I wouldn't be surprised if Steve Weenham signs just as quickly once his school's tournament run is over.
Likely so. The money is there and waiting. Important things first. Texter to the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line. Asked me to ask. No, it's not Twin Savagery. Asked me to ask you what cigar lounge you go to. He says if he runs into you, he has a 4-pack of something called Davidoff Winston Churchill Late Hour Robusto cigars 4-pack as a gift for you for your great work. So where do you like to hover these days?
Davidoff is a fine brand, and Robusto is a very nice model. So I would be glad to accept that. Well, I live in River Grove Heights, and there is a shop in River Grove Heights called The Perfect Ash. That's ASH. Okay.
I get it.
That has a humidor. You can purchase a lot of cigars and a really nice sized lounge. You can sit in a leather sofa, smoke your cigar, have great conversations with like-minded individuals, and watch whatever sporting event you want on the TVs, because they have about 8 of them in there. So I don't know what part of the metropolitan area he's in. Dan in Minnesota knows where I live, because we're just blocks away from each other. But that gentleman is more than free to reach out to me via email, and we'll figure something out.
Fantastic. All right, before we get to baseball, I'm up right now watching upset in the making in the women's tournament. Brenda Friese's Maryland squad leads number 1 South Carolina by a point, 58-57 with 5.5 minutes to go. So an upset brewing on the ladies' Sweet 16. Do you think we might see a number 1 in danger tonight when both Houston and Auburn have to deal with a couple of Big Ten teams?
Houston's playing, remind
Purdue.
me, not Michigan State. Michigan State's got Auburn, right?
No, Michigan State's got Ole Miss because they're a 2 seed.
Okay.
Houston has Purdue and Auburn has Michigan.
Nah, I don't see Houston having problems with Purdue. The thing about Houston, too, they were known as such a tough, hard-nosed defensive team. They have finally paired that with a functional offense, and they're going to be a tough out the rest of the way. The one interesting thing that could be a matchup issue, when you play Michigan, they play 2 7-footers, and it's been working. They play off each other well. They can do the high-low stuff, and they're great on the glass. So that could be an issue for teams aren't used to seeing 2 7-footers, let alone 1. So that could be an interesting game to watch. Plus, they're playing Auburn, and I want Auburn to crash and burn every time they step on the court. Thanks to Bruce Pearl, who ran out on Illinois years ago and got us punished by the NCAA. But no, I don't have any hard feelings, do I?
Well, we both got that because I've got Kelvin Sampson doing the same thing to Indiana, so I don't tend to root for him either after the illegal cell phone conversations got IU in trouble. So we both have coaches that we're not necessarily cheering for. Pearl, though, he sort of harkened back to the 80s Celtics teams. We're looking at this Michigan team, comparing Golden and Wolf to Parrish and McHale a little bit, which I thought was maybe pushing it a bit too far.
You think? I don't disagree with that one. I mean, my goodness, all right? Let's not start invoking, stirring the echoes of NBA immortality here,
Does any Big Ten team get to the Final Four? Michigan State obviously has the best chance. They would meet up, I think, with Auburn on Sunday if those teams both win tonight. Feels like another year where we have a Final Four without any Big Ten representation.
I think Michigan State can do it. That would be my choice out of the teams that are left from the conference. Just Tom Izzo having to get ready, prepare for someone on short notice. Is probably one of the best in the business, man. So I would pick this. I would pick Sparty. Plus, their squad's got local flavor on it, and so that's a team that maybe Gopher fans can get behind, since there's a Minnesota playing a prominent role.
Yeah, we talked about it with Marcus Fuller earlier. I mean, both Michigan and Purdue have Minnesota guys in key roles off the bench too. So I think we all, if we're Big Ten people, we've got some local flavor all across the board, and some of these other teams do too. There's a lot of Minnesota representation remaining in the Sweet 16 or the 12 teams that are still left.
Hey, because we know that we produce a lot of great high school talent here, and they do not go to the University of Minnesota, so we end up having to root for other teams when the tournament comes.
The tide is turning. Nico's in town, baby. It's a new era. Those days are done. Let's switch our attention to baseball for a moment. The fan has learned the season for the Twins began yesterday. It was a loss in St. Louis after a rain delay. I think most of the Metro got to watch the game and have now figured out how to watch Twins baseball. I understand there's a lot of machinations and stuff that has to get done, but it's just seems remarkable to me that it took till opening day, 5-6 hours before the first pitch for a lot of Twins fans to even know, if they didn't buy the Twins.tv subscription, to even know where to find Twins baseball. That's not ideal, is it?
Well, at least this time the Twins warned us about this, because they told us during the fall that these deals may take up to the final minute to be consummated before they could be announced, and that's what happened in this case. Now, at least they prepared us. I still blame them for a year ago when the fiasco with Diamond Sports was headed toward disaster, and we didn't know anything about it until it was upon us. And I think the Twins could have been out front about, hey, there's something going on you guys need to know about. I don't think they did a great job of that. So at least we were warned this time. It's, not everybody's getting access to the team. There's a couple providers out there that don't have an agreement to show the Twins, apparently. Michael Rand went over that today on our website at the Minnesota Star Tribune about how the first day of the new era of Twins broadcasting went. So take a look at that story by Michael Rand. I think he mentioned a couple places that have provided Twins games are not able to.
And it wasn't glitchless yesterday. I understand there was like a Cleveland Guardians highlight package showed at the beginning of the game. Get ready for Twins baseball. How about those Guardians? I guess we're going to have a few hiccups till they get everything right, but at least familiar faces giving us the play-by-play and analysis, so that was good to see.
Yeah, the funny part is Bob Costas narrated that Cleveland bit, so here you are watching the game, you hear the voice of Bob Costas. Oh, Bob Costas is about to hype the Twins. And all of a sudden you see a Guardians uniform and a logo on the screen going, this isn't Minnesota. It was the Twins are taking some knocks here. Did you see on Twitter exploded yesterday? There was an ad for Fanatics to buy Twins jerseys, and so they had two models wearing Twins jerseys, but one of the models was actually wearing a Cleveland Guardians hat in the ad. So that caught the attention of a lot of Minnesotans. So the Twins just can't win with these days.
No, you just can't make it up. All right, what do we make of this team? Royce Lewis isn't ready to play. That's not a surprise. What are your expectations for this team? Not a great start. Obviously, Pablo wasn't his sharpest. Where are you going? What do you think the chances are for this squad this year?
But even because they've given us enough information to make this assumption, it's just hard for me to try to prognosticate what a team's capabilities are when they've had injury issues the last 3 or 4 years. But a lot of people are pointing to that as to why they can't be good. I just can't go there, at the beginning of the year. I got to think that these guys are going to be on the field more often than not, or for at least 60% of the season, or 70% at least, with a couple of guys getting closer to 140 games. So if Buxton and Correa are on the field for that amount of time, they're going to produce more than 5.0 WAR, and that makes them damn good players, and any team would like to have them. If Buxton hits like he did a couple of years ago, that's going to be more of a 7 WAR season. So I look at that. Royce was Mr. Grand Slam 2 years ago. Last year was tough because he had the calf injury early, and then he came back and was doing okay, and then just fell off a cliff the last 6 weeks and said he was tired, said he was worn out. And I think that was mentally as much as physically for him, just going through rehab and fighting to get back in the lineup. And then, once the slump started, he couldn't figure out a way to get out of it. And plus, he told me, I talked to him about this in spring training, he told me too, was that, okay, from a physical standpoint, how hard it was. And he was like, he saw pitches that he normally would just be right on, and he just was a little late. He couldn't fire out to get to these pitches. And he said that was the physical fatigue part of what he went through. So, he's only played, he's only played a few hundred games for the Twins.
Yeah.
I think he's only had like 500 career at bats. We still don't know what type of hitter he can be, although he projects to be fantastic. A year ago at this time, Rocco Baldelli was calling him his best option at cleanup, which I said a lot, but I got to feel if he comes back, hopefully in the next 3 weeks or so, and gets in the lineup, hopefully he can start living up to that hype. But when you have those three guys, and Matt Wallner took a step last year, Trevor Lawrence took a step last year, I just think his offense is going to be pretty good. And the pitching staff from 1 to 13 has talent. The top three, the starters are solid, although Pablo didn't have his best control early, and it seemed like he struggled with that, had a high pitch count through 2 innings, and it just wasn't his day. But you actually have Simeon Woods Richardson, as a capable fourth guy, and Chris Paddock in the fifth spot. It's house money. If he does well, it's a plus. If he doesn't do well, call him Zebby Matthews, who looked fantastic in spring training. So, and the bullpen's awesome. So I think I predicted 88 wins for this squad, and that should put him in contention for a division championship in a division in which you got 3 other teams who are capable of being over 500, and that's the Tigers, the Royals, and the Guardians. So they're going to be beating up on each other a little bit this year. But I do think this team, and I'm not going to sit here and make a prediction based on the assumption that they're going to be banged up, because I just can't go there. I think they're going to be a good team.
I take health away, because obviously health is always the wild card. What concerns you most about the roster as it's presently comprised? Again, we know about the health issues. Everybody's healthy. What needs to get better? What's your biggest concern about the roster?
Defense. I think, Correa has a fantastic shortstop, and Buck is great in center field. Wallner has a ridiculous cannon for an arm and right. Now, third base. Royce Lewis is still kind of learning how to play third base. It was a process for him to go from being an athlete trying to play shortstop to being a shortstop who was an athlete. He was just starting to figure that out, and now he's at third, where he's got to work on being a little more sure-handed, and especially being truer and more accurate with his throws. So first base is going to be an issue, because you had a Gold Glover there last year. And Harrison Bader's numbers were horrible defensively as a first baseman last year. So I think overall, and that's why I'm sorry, Ty France. Ty France is the first baseman. Yep. Bader is an outfielder. Right? He's going to help as a leading defensive guy and occasional starter. So I think the outfield defense is going to be pretty solid. I just worried at a couple spots there where once Lewis starts playing, and Miranda's not known for his glove work either as a replacement. So they're going to need Willie Castro to play every day right away and play second some days and play short some days. And I don't know how often he'll be needing an outfield right now. But I'm worried about I don't think they have an excellent defense by any stretch of imagination. I think it's kind of middle of the pack overall, and maybe they have an opportunity of being slightly above average. And I don't like their left-handed relieving situation with Danny Colomb. He's figured out a way to be a major leaguer. He throws 91, 92. He's not overpowering. And I think over the course of a season, you're going to need a second left-handed reliever. Cody Funderburk got his feet wet last year, but he's still dealing with some ups and downs. And I don't see the type of, doesn't project to be the type of lockdown lefty that you like to have. They got a kid in the minors named Connor Pralip who's had multiple Tommy John surgeries, but when he's healthy, he's absolutely fantastic. He's got a wipeout slider and a good mid-90s fastball, and they're going to start him this year. He's going to be a starter for now. I think that's because he hasn't thrown a lot of innings since turning pro 3 years ago, that they want to see a lot of hitters. But I think if they decide to make him a reliever and fast track him, he could contribute to the team this year. If not, I think the Twins will be in the market for a lefty reliever, because I predict that they're going to be in the race.
Let's finish with the Twins on the ownership situation, because it's meaty. $1.5 billion valuation. The poll ads say, well, yeah, but we're $400 million in debt, which makes it difficult. To which I would say, tough toenails, man. Run your organization better. We don't care about that. This is the value. This is what we'll buy it for. How do you think, or when do you think we get any kind of resolution, any kind of movement? I heard Gleeman say, maybe this calendar year, but maybe not during the season. Do you have any sense of where this thing is headed?
Well, I agree with Aaron. I think it's going to be after the regular season now. I mean, the hope was for them would have been able to announce that Dave Sinekin has put in the winning bid for the Minnesota Twins today on opening day, and the paperwork will be completed in 6 months, and Dave Sinekin will have the keys to Target Field starting July 1st. That was the hope. I don't see that happening now, especially with the report that the Twins turned down a $1.5 billion offer. It's funny, which is exactly what they're valued at by Forbes.
I topped off at 1.4, so I'm out.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yep, I'm
okay.
out.
You couldn't call one of your well-oiled, well-heeled Indiana alums to help pitch in and put together a consortium?
Yeah,
no?
Cuban won't take my call, so I was out of luck. Yeah.
So I did check on one thing, though, Cindy. A person I know who is familiar with sports transactions said that debt load can be negotiated. So whoever buys the team would not necessarily have to also take on all of 432. Maybe they can negotiate for half or 40% or whatever. So that definitely helps. But I want to know what Poads are willing to sell at. Is it really 1.7? The word was right at the beginning of this process that they were hoping for $2 billion, and I was like, $2 billion? Ooh, that's a little high. And it's definitely high when there's $400 billion in debt that you have to work through as well. So I'm curious to see what number. Maybe it is 1.7. And the people who were turned down do not believe that they're officially out of the running here. So there could be some other developments moving forward with this. But if I was a Twins fan, I would give up hope that an owner could be identified and a transaction be made by the trade deadline so they can go trade for Vladimir Guerrero since he won't sign with the Blue Jays, So this is going to be after the regular season and, possibly early New Year if they still need more time to get some more ducks in a row.
All right, let's close with one Bears question.
Oh, boy.
Well, I think kind of like the Vikes. The Bears have spent a lot of money, trades, whatever, to fortify their offensive line. They've added some defense. I'm assuming you're content and happy with the moves they've made in free agency. My question for you is, as we get closer to the draft, and the mock drafts are flying fast and furious, if he's there at 10, because there are some who believe the Raiders will take him at 6, if he's there at 10, is running back Ashton Genty your absolute grand slam home run pick for Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears to take that offense to the next level? Is that what you're dreaming about right now?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's coming up in conversations in Chicago that the Bears may spend a first-round pick on Genty. So it's funny how the whole attitude toward running backs has changed in 3 years.
Yeah.
Because 3 years ago, they were still low-paid, and other than Saquon Barkley, they weren't getting drafted high, except for your boy in Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs. That's being talked about in Chicago. I wouldn't mind. And here's the thing, too, about the Bears offense, and Ben Johnson knows this, too, because he had DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift historically avoids running up the middle and kicks everything out to the side,
yep.
And tries to go around the end instead of busting through the middle. So Genty looks like a guy who wouldn't be afraid to do that. He just had his pro day a few days ago, Cindy. He did it without a shirt on. The man's body is just beautiful. I had to take a shower after watching him run through some drills. He looked so good.
TMI.
If the Bears took him in the first round, I wouldn't mind. I still think, it depends on what offensive tackles are available. Braxton Jones is solid, not spectacular, and they could upgrade there and continue the makeover of that offensive line. And I don't think you can have enough edge rushers, too. If one of the top edge guys is around, they have to consider that as well. So I'm looking at linemen and running back to go to Chicago with that first pick.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with Ashton Genty in our division. I really don't. I think that the Lions with Gibbs have a home run. Certainly the Packers like Jacobs. I like the Vikings move with Jordan Mason as a.
I do.
I think he is going to be a really nice find for this organization and be a better player than a lot of people think. I don't need Genty on the Bears. That guy is the real deal. Thanks, buddy. Always great to talk to you. Enjoy your cigars at, what is it, the Perfect Ash? What is it?
Perfect Ash in Riverside.
Very clever. Thanks for joining us, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Lavelle E. Neal III, columnist, Star Tribune. Read his stuff, as I know you do. I thought we were done. We're not. We're taking to the bottom of the hour. I still got some stuff. Don't worry. We have a Dan Minnesota entry we'll talk about. Deion Sanders gets paid. We got some stuff, so hang with us. We're back right around the corner.
And
If you want to chime in what's happening with your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That is 64686. Standard text message and data rate supply.
It looks like the top-seeded South Carolina Gamecocks are going to survive the Sweet 16 game against the Terrapins from Maryland. They were trailing with about a minute and change to go. A Maryland turnover down 4 in the final 20 seconds just pretty much sealed the deal. Couple free throws. South Carolina up 6, 10 seconds to go, so they are likely to advance to the Elite 8. Mentioned earlier, Paige Beckers announced she's turning pro. So this is her last run with UConn. They'll face Oklahoma tomorrow in their Sweet 16 matchup. Beckers presumed to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. That pick belongs to the Dallas Stars. She has announced reportedly she'd rather play in L.A. with the number 2 pick, Sparks. So whether Dallas and L.A. dance again on the trade table and make a deal remains to be seen. But Paige announces officially with 1 year of eligibility left. This is it. Her run in stores will end with this tournament, and UConn back in action tomorrow. It's a good day to be primetime. Deion, you see this, Brett? Extension for Deion Sanders makes him one of the 5 or 6 highest paid coaches in college football, the highest paid in the Big 12, a 5-year, $54 million extension.
You know, I was really worried about him, too, so good for him. You know,
I think
all the bills will be paid.
Yeah, I think he's all right. I think he'll make more than his son, right? At least
think about it.
For now.
Yeah.
Shadir is one of those polarizing draft prospects that could go 3rd and could go on Friday. That's going to be really interesting. He could have an Aaron Rodgers-like drop, or Cleveland could take him at 2. The Giants could take him at 3. Either way, I think his dad will out-earn him. And if you wonder whether it's worth it to pay Deion that kind of money, applications at the University of Colorado have gone up 20% since he became coach of the Buffaloes. He had 67,000 kids fill out their admission to try to be a Colorado Buffalo. So he's having quite an impact. I think I read somewhere like a $94 million economic impact last year. That's the impact Primetime has had on that program, which was 1-11 when he took over. He's a different kind of coach, and he needs to focus on, I think, the trenches like the Vikes and the Lions and the Bears have done, because they've gotten beat up front when they play good teams. But he has made that program relevant, beyond relevant, and he got paid 5 years, $54 million. Our thanks to a friend of the program, Dan Minnesota, who has given us a potpourri of calendar of calamity entries for today. It's a meaty day, which isn't all that surprising because the end of March, a lot of teams are playing. There's a lot of sports going on. April is the coolest month of the sports calendar, but I don't have time to go into all that. I say that every year. On this date in Minnesota sports history, thanks to Dan Minnesota, 1981, Gophers hockey team loses the national championship to Scotty. That's not calamity to you, is it?
No, that would be fortune.
Yeah, that's good for
great.
you. Certainly a difficult day. That would have been my freshman year in college. So while Gophers puck was heartbroken,
Mark Johnson, go crazy.
Was he on Scotty's team in 81?
I believe so.
Makes sense. While Gopher fans were crying in their beers, I was celebrating an unexpected Indiana championship my freshman year with Isaiah Thomas. So it was a very good end of March for me. That was back when March Madness actually ended in March. Actually, interesting nugget about that day when Indiana beat North Carolina to win the championship in 81. That was the day President Reagan got shot.
Whoa.
Assassination attempt. Never forget, I'm driving back from Milwaukee to IU with my cousin, who's since passed, unfortunately. And we're driving down to Bloomington, and we get the news that Reagan got shot. And naturally, as 19 to 20-year-old guys, we're thinking, well, crap, are they going to play the game tonight? That that was concern number one. No! We then heard that the president was going to be okay. So, we thought about that. They did play the game, and Indiana got their one shining moment. Not a great day for Gophers puck, however. On this date in 1996 was the day that Kirby Puckett's vision issue was first reported.
Ooh.
Just on the eve of the 96 season. Obviously terrible and ended his career prematurely. The late, great Kirby Puckett first reported the issues with his vision on this date. 4 years ago, the Gophers hockey team lost to Mankato in the regional final.
I remember that.
So that's somewhat calamitous. And 1 year ago, on this date, was the day that Wolves owner Glenn Taylor claimed that the bid to purchase the Wolves by A-Rod and Laurie had expired because they hadn't hit the deadline. And we all know that went to a year's worth of acrimony, lawyers talking, arbitration, which has ended up with the new owners, obviously, Rodriguez and Laurie, winning the arbitration. And Adam Silver just this week kind of gave an update that, that bid still has to be approved by the Board of Governors, the league owners in the NBA, and that Glenn Taylor still has the option to appeal or to fight that ruling a bit. And I don't think that, from what I've heard, that is in the cards, but we still don't have complete clarity, but we think we know where it's headed.
I do have the audio of that.
Do
if
you?
You want, of Adam Silver. Yeah, we played it. We played it yesterday.
Yeah, what do you got?
On the Timberwolves, so where that stands is Glenn Taylor does have the right to appeal, and I know he is considering his various options right now, and I believe he's also talking directly to Mark Laurie and Alex Rodriguez. So, we're on hold there and waiting for decisions among the parties.
So, a year later, and we're still waiting for parties and decisions. Yeah.
I would have loved to have been in the room when Glenn Taylor was told that the Celtics just sold for $6.1 billion. I mean, did he just drop the lasagna in his lap at that point when he heard that news? By the way, South Carolina has eliminated Maryland. They are now 19-1 in their last 4 NCAA tournaments. The defending champs move on to the Elite Eight. So yeah, calamitous day. Thank you, Dan from Minnesota, for. I know he sent that to Dan and Guardsy early, forwarded to me when he found out I was sitting in the big chair today. I appreciate that. Wolves back in action tonight. About an hour from now, they will tip off at Target Center, their first action since Monday. KD, Devin Booker, the Phoenix Suns are in town. Very important game for the Wolves as they are in a dogfight right now to escape the play-in. They are just a half game behind both the Warriors and the Clippers. And Golden State's dealing with some injuries. Steph might be back tonight. But this is an opportunity for the Wolves to try to get right after an ugly game on Monday in Indiana. All reports that we've heard are that Ant should be okay. His thumb was wrapped up pretty good toward the end of that Pacers game. Only injury of note, Terrence Shannon, questionable. Seemed to irritate a groin during the week of practice. But the Wolves back in action tonight. They'll welcome Detroit on Sunday. The Pistons likely without their star, Cade Cunningham, who will miss tonight's game. And I would guess he's day-to-day likely to miss Sundays. Talked about it earlier. A couple people have texted me and said, what about that Lakers-Bulls game? I mentioned it earlier. If you haven't seen, if you're a big NBA person, and you haven't seen how that game ended last night, it is worth your while to go find it. 11 points scored in the final 12 seconds. Bulls down 5. They hit a 3. LeBron, lazy inbound pass. It gets stolen. Bulls hit another 3 to take the lead with 6 seconds left. Lakers take the ball at midcourt. Austin Reeves is basically, it's like the Matador is just holding the red cape out. Just go ahead. He just went right to the basket, hits a layup. Lakers up 1 with 3 seconds left. Bulls have no timeouts left. They inbound it. Giddey inbounds it. It goes back to Giddey. He dribbles up court, and about a step or two before he gets to half court, he launches it. and he hits it. It sounded something like this.
Bulls are out of timeouts. 2 seconds left. Giddy for the win. Go!
My God! I cannot believe this. Elizabeth, I'm coming, baby. On and on.
Improbable!
Unbelievable.
Impossible!
Magic Giddy. Good day, mate. Somewhere in Australia, Sydney, or Melbourne. Paul Hogan and somebody at Crocodile Dundee.
Poor Lakers fan, too, that they cut to in that clip. Just disappointed, just stunned. And they zoom in like right on his face. Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. Poor Lakers. Stacey King, I didn't know
success.
I didn't know Stacey King had such game. I mean, first he gives us the Fred Sanford Elizabeth, then he goes Crocodile Dundee on the bit. What a remarkable finish coming one night after LeBron with the tip in with 1/10 of a second to go gives them a win in Indiana. That was remarkable. Just a great finish as the Lakers go down in flames in Chicago. Very pesky Bulls team that is playing really good basketball. All right, final pause. We'll wrap it up. We'll remind you what we talked about over these 3 hours and change and get you set for Wolves basketball. We'll close it out after these.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure.
All right, we close out the week. Final moments. Appreciate you spending part of your Friday with me, Dave Sinekin, Brett Blakemore. I want to thank all 4 guests that we had today. And if you missed any of the show, it is definitely podcastable, downloadable, or will be shortly after we are done. We had Britt Robson, covers the Wolves very eloquently at minpost.com at about 3:30 on his optimism. He doesn't always have a lot of optimism. He calls them like he sees them. But reasons to believe, in light of the way Conley and McDaniels in particular have come on of late, knowing what playoff Ant is all about, knowing what the schedule looks like down the stretch and the potential opponent in the playoffs, he's feeling a bit bullish. Shared that with us at 3:30. That's worth listening to for sure. Pat Nicoletti joined top of the hour at 4 o'clock on the end of the Gophers hockey season. They was robbed. No tripping called in overtime leads to a UMass game-winning overtime goal that ends the Gopher season and ends the Gopher career of the great Jimmy Snuggerud, who signed his deal with the Blues this afternoon and will join the NHL in the coming days. We switched to college hoops at about 4:35 with Marcus Fuller, Star Tribune, who let us know that Houston's his team in the bracket. That's what he's rolling with. He also chatted about the first few days of the Nico Medved era. And then about 5:30 or so, Lavelle Neal on Twins, on a little March Madness, where he likes to smoke his cigars. Appreciate all those gentlemen joining us on this Friday afternoon. Double T and I will be back tomorrow morning in the zone on the Fan at 8 o'clock. I hope you'll wake up and listen to us. We'll catch up on what the Wolves do in Phoenix tonight. Sorry, that's here. What the Wolves do against Phoenix at Target Center tonight. And all the latest NBA news and March Madness stuff. The Michigan State Spartans are just underway in Atlanta. They're facing Ole Miss, one of... Are there 6 SEC teams still alive in the Final 12? It sounds right. Michigan State trailing early, 6-4. 3 Big Ten teams in action tonight. Michigan State, the one that is favored to advance to the Elite Eight. Both Michigan and Purdue are up against number 1 seeds tonight and are both 8.5-point underdogs in Sweet 16 action tonight, which you'll be able to listen to on the Fan following Wolves basketball. Mentioned that Paige Beckers is turning pro. Mentioned that Deion Sanders got paid. Speculated on the Vikings quarterback situation and why JJ has not officially been named number 1. Maybe that's coming shortly. Remains to be seen. I'm back in this chair on Monday Ben Gessling already lined up. It'll be NFL owners meetings going on Monday, so perhaps some newsworthy bits. Efforting Johnny Athletic as well on Monday. I'll also be here, and it's just a weekend of Cindy, basically. I'm in Sunday Sermons. Are you with me? I'm assuming.
I am.
Chris Hines, Star Tribune, has locked in to talk some hoops with me on Sunday morning. Maybe more on his upcoming book on Ant. That'll be at 10:30 on Sunday. So you got me tomorrow, you got me Sunday, you got me Monday. I'll close it out on Wednesday here in this chair at 3 o'clock, and then I'll be done for a while, and you won't have to deal with me anymore. What do you have for the weekend? Any big plans?
Working, man. Working. Mom's coming up to town.
Is she?
So, yeah. So making the drive from Des Moines as we speak.
Very nice.
So that'll be fun. Something to do.
Get a nice dinner somewhere, perhaps?
I think so. We're efforting to go to the Wild game tomorrow night. To little success. So we'll see.
Really?
Yeah, we'll see. That's rare for me. So I might have to spend some coin to actually get in the building this time.
You usually can find your way in when you need to.
I usually weasel my way in there one way or another. So might have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Who they got tomorrow?
They've got the Devils. It's a playoff team, but, I think it's winnable.
It's absolutely winnable.
Yeah.
They got a little streak going. They won yesterday. Here they come.
Is 2 a streak or is 3?
I think 3 is officially.
I
think it need to get to 3 to call it a streak. That's the closing music. That means we are done for a Friday afternoon. Again, thank you for giving us part of your time on a Friday. Always a pleasure to be in this chair hanging out with Brett. Again, thanks to my 4 guests. Hang on tight. Wolves basketball is coming up soon. Top of the hour. Wolves and Suns from Target Center. Ant gets to play against his idol. Fireworks typically ensue, so it should be a good one. Hopefully the Wolves will continue their dominance over the Phoenix Suns. Enjoy your night, enjoy your hoops, enjoy your weekend. Hope to hear you and see you tomorrow morning in the Zone on the Fan. For Brett Blakemore, I am Dave Sinekin. Have a great night.